Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr Podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us on iTunes right now, please leave a 5-star review. Thank you very much. Shout out to this episode's sponsor. I don't know if you guys listen to a lot of podcasts or just mine, but it is okay to listen to other podcasts other than this one. I will allow it just this once. I don't know if you guys have checked out the Tower Power Hour podcast. It's this funny, libertarian-centric podcast hosted by Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown, Reed Coverdale from Naturalist Capitalist, plus their buddies Cole, Toad, and Jose. It's live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can check it out on YouTube, Odyssey, and anywhere else you get your podcast content. I've been a guest on it, and this just shows how smart they are because they have chosen to sponsor me, this podcast. So we already know they have very good taste. I've been a guest on the show. Dave Smith has been on, Shoe on Head, Spike Cohen, and a couple of my other comedy buddies, Josh Denny and Crip Daddy. So go check them out. Tell them I sent you, and let them know that their money was well spent. I like those guys. They're fun. Yes, the album is coming out live from January 6th. Will be released on March 15th. Pre-sale will go into effect a couple weeks before March 15th, and I'll let you guys know exactly when that is and where you can pre-buy the album. I guess iTunes. I don't know. It's all being handled by Aaron Berg, comedian and CEO of Uncancelable Records, also fellow Compound Media comedian as well. So I'm very excited for you guys to hear this album. It's pretty cool. I'm excited. And we got some comedy shows coming up. I'll be performing with comedians of the Compound back at Governor's in Levittown, Long Island, February 26th. And then I'll be heading to Raleigh, North Carolina to perform at Good Nights on St. Patty's Day. Oh, the look of the Irish will be with you. Come to the show. That's about all I can do there. So yeah, that's March 17th. And then I'll be heading to Savannah, Georgia to do the Wormhole on March 19th. And then March 20th, I'll be heading to Tampa, Florida to do Side Splitters Comedy Club. Who knows? Maybe I'll see my dad. Maybe if he's nice. I'll go say hi. Yeah, awesome shows. Keep up the tweeting. Like if there is a venue near you that doesn't require vax or papers or any of that bullshit, tweet at them, tweet at me. You know, they do see those tweets. And I'm keeping a little bit of a list of like fun.
Hey, just so you know, tickets for Atlantic City literally just went on sale, by the way. I attached the link in the description, so those just came out.
Thank you, Frank.
You're welcome.
Always good to have you chiming. I like his little filing cabinet emoji. I gotta get him a real avatar. Yes, tickets just went on sale for Comedians of the Compound in Atlantic City, and I didn't mention that. So yeah, that's in New Jersey for all my New Jersey fellow trash people. All right. I'm really excited to have this guy on the podcast, not because we share all of the same ideas and feelings and opinions. No, we're going to get along great. But I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what he's got to say because he's a lifelong New Yorker like myself. He has a podcast. He comes from the acting world, so I'm very curious to see what his experiences are there. He's an actor, like very, very actory, like formally like studied at NYC Tisch, which is like the end all be all of acting schools. New Yorker, and he is the host of the Clifton Duncan Podcast here on YouTube. Welcome to the program, Clifton Duncan.
What's going on, my friend? How are you?
Good to see you. You look and sound such like an actor. Like if I didn't know in advance, I would have prejudged you.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not, to be honest, but I do. I am frequently asked, "Hey, bro, you an actor?" I'm like, "Well, I was, but I can't be." But maybe we'll get into why.
You have great skin, and you project, and you seem tall.
I'm 6'3", so there is that.
You even sitting down, I can tell.
You have very discerning eyes, Miss Mayr.
I mean, I'm no size queen, but a couple extra inches.
But a little bit. No, it's all right. I got
I'm not
you.
gonna get mad at a little height. So Clifton, you studied at NYC Tisch, which is like the hardest of hard acting schools to get into, or so I've been told.
Well, let me first. I need to correct some misinformation.
I've already fucked it up out the gate.
I'm not a lifelong New Yorker, but I was there for 15
shit.
years.
All right, that's good enough.
But yeah, it feels like what's it, like 10 years or something? Then you're considered a full blown New Yorker.
I think it's as soon as you get your first STD, you're considered a real New Yorker.
Oh well, that happened before I got there, so there we go.
There you go.
But no, but then as far as NYU goes, so we have to distinguish between the Tisch school proper and then the Tisch school, the graduate acting program, which is where I went. So the Tisch school, I call it the nursery. So you go to 721 Broadway, and you have all these little fucking 18 to 19-year-old kids, and then you'd have the graduate actors, which is where I was. So the undergraduate program had like 400 people in it, and then our program had 18. So it's one of those things where they auditioned 1,000 prospective students from across the country, and they would call back 50, and then they would accept 18. So that's the program that I went to, as opposed to Tisch, which they called the conveyor belt for the drama kids who didn't know what they were doing with their lives.
Which many of them ended up in the improv world, which I lived in for like a good 5 years right after college. Like improv is full of like theater kids, like definitely actors, and also like men that are recently divorced and trying to like get back out there. So
that is very specific. What's that about?
Interesting mix. And then like, Randy, who's working on his public speaking skills for his job. So that's but everyone is clamoring, like especially the actor kids, like clamoring for a spot, on a team so that they can be looked at by SNL. Like it was 5 years of this, like everybody just like out of my way, let me suck his dick, meaning the teacher. There just was a lot of like improv incest, and I just found like particularly the women who like moved up were the ones who seemed to be dating a teacher.
They put out most.
I just couldn't find one that I liked. I really tried. I searched everywhere.
Well, I'm sorry about that, Chrissy. But you didn't find the divorcee for you, unfortunately.
No, I was fingered in a basement once after a party, but that really didn't get me anywhere.
Good times.
So you're in like this actual acting school. Did you always want to be an actor? Like, what gave you the bug?
No, I'm kind of a weirdo. I say all the time that my life actually would have been easier if I were one of those kids who, at 6 years old, they saw a production of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and they just said, "Oh my God, I have to be this for the rest of my life." Like that wasn't me. Like I was going to be a visual artist at first, and I got accepted into the Savannah College of Art and Design for illustration. But I was into, as a kid, like music, poetry, like short fiction, but mostly drawing. And then I chased, this is how all straight guys get into theater, by the way. There was a girl that I liked, and I followed her into a drama class, much to the chagrin of my French teacher at the time. I'd taken 3 years of French, and I was like, I don't want to continue in this skill that might be useful someday. I'm going to go into drama. And I had an aptitude for it, and I took to it. And I was never afraid to be in front of an audience. I just, I've seen people, I'm sure you've seen this too, that people just freak the fuck out when they're in front of an audience. But this never was a thing for me. And I found that I was good at it. And people kept putting me in shows, and it just kind of kept, the ball kind of kept rolling. And I got a lot of great encouragement. People were saying, "Hey, if you keep on doing this." Strangely, now I learned that this industry and those people were actually racist, but they kept telling me that if I kept going, then I would I'd be successful. And that was exactly what was happening until the world ended in 2020. So
you heard that the acting world was actually racist, or you were
No, I'm being facetious.
Okay.
I'm saying that now, in hindsight, despite the fact that I've been encouraged every step of the way, and that I've actually made a career out of being a diversity hire in many instances, now I've just come to learn that the industry is, in fact, white supremacist, and that I, for some reason, I guess I'm a fluke. I don't know.
Yeah, which must mean that you're some sort of pity case. You're a charity. Someone felt bad for you. Many people must have felt bad for you along the way and lifted you up and kept giving you opportunities.
Obviously,
couldn't have been your talent.
Not at all. Not any of the training, not any of the how I look, whatever I bring to the table. It's just we gotta get that darky a job. So that's but all that to say that I enjoyed a very good career. Anybody can look up my reviews and my credits and resume and everything. I had a good time, but now I settle for being a mediocre Twitter personality. So that's where we're at.
That's a there's nothing wrong with that. So you've had a history of pursuing I guess avenues that maybe don't lead to like okay, so I feel like there's a difference in high school between people who or even into college who pursue French versus people who pursue Spanish. And I feel like the people who pursue French have like lofty goals and ambitions, and then like the people who pursue Spanish are the ones whose parents are like, come on, nobody speaks French. What the fuck are you doing with your life? You know what I mean? Like get a job,
Well, I'll tell
that
you
are more like grounded in like reality a little more.
Well, dude, when I was 10, I wanted to learn Japanese. And for no other reason than at the time, that's where all the video games were made. And
right. Konami, right? Isn't there?
Right. Yeah, there you go. Konami. Yeah, but mom was like, don't take Japanese. So she killed my dreams
Wow.
at a very young age.
So you're like, I'm going to pursue French, which is also kind of a useless language. Although I'm sure you'd use it. Are you still fluent?
No, God, no. I mean, I can read it a little bit here and there, and I do want to pick it back up. I'm very familiar with it, and but also I want to learn Spanish as well, and then move on into like Italian and Portuguese, mainly for like opera and stuff like that. But that's a whole different discussion.
Oh, you can sing? Of course, you were on Broadway, duh. What?
Sorry.
What was like, I guess, like the biggest or most notable show that you were on, like between off Broadway or on Broadway?
There were a few, but there were a few. They all happened at the same time. One, the Broadway show I did, oddly enough, was not a musical. It was a comedy called The Play That Goes Wrong, which has a great story behind it. The show was written by a troupe, it's just some actor friends in the UK. And they first put it up at like some tavern somewhere, and it just kept growing and growing and growing and catching on in popularity. And eventually it ended up in the West End, which is basically the Broadway of London. And J.J. Abrams happened to be in the audience, and he saw it. He loved it. He wanted to produce it on Broadway. So they brought over the original cast and creators on Broadway for a 6-month run. And then they brought in an American cast to replace them. And I was a part of that American cast. Learned a lot about comedy. It was a beautiful show, extraordinarily funny. And completely apolitical, which was kind of the best thing about it. Although some of my castmates didn't want it to stay that way. But
how is that even possible? That like a show could be apolitical?
Well, it was one of those things where like the title of the play literally is the play. That's the joke. It's the play that goes wrong. So the conceit of the play is that you have this troupe of actors. They're amateur actors who are putting on this really, really bad murder mystery, and it's their opening night. And pretty much everything. I mean, the set won the Tony Award actually because it's really, really innovative. So it's all kinds of stunt work, all kinds of slapstick, farcical comedy. So as an actor, you're playing someone who's playing an actor who's playing a character, if that makes sense. So there's many layers to it. But I ended up fucking up my back and my wrist, so I had to leave the show.
Oh no!
But
how did you hurt it?
So there was a gag in the play where we have to, it was me and another actor had to lift a third actor on this set of parallel bars, small set of parallel bars that was supposed to be a stretcher. But one of the earliest jokes in the play is that the stretcher tears. And so we have to pretend that we're still carrying out this body on this actor on it. So basically, after years of squatting and deadlifting in the gym, it was in the midst of this Broadway show that I bent down and, we did the gig and came back up, and I felt my back just seize up, and it was pretty tough. And I kept performing, and after a few weeks, it became difficult to even just walk to the subway or tie my shoes. I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore.
Playing the role of the broken stretcher is Clifton Duncan. Yeah.
Exactly. There you go. But then after that, though, things kept kind of taking off because I did a couple of standout performances in concerts at some of the bigger venues in New York, which led to other things. Work begets work. And so I did an off-Broadway show called Carmen Jones, which featured the 2-time Tony winner Anika Noni Rose. People will probably know her best as the voice of the Princess in The Princess and the Frog. And that was going to move to Broadway, but for whatever reason, we couldn't get a theater. But then around that same time, we were doing a revival of the play called The Secret Garden, or the musical version of that. And I was cast in the role that Mandy Patinkin originated on Broadway. So that was going to move to Broadway, but then the Capitol fell through. So, a lot of almost rans in my career. But then when that work dried up, started doing more TV work and doing a lot of guest stars on network television. And, things were just going in the right direction. And like I said before, just it took a virus to kind of shut everything down. So here I am.
Do you have personal beef with COVID? You're like, man, you stole my livelihood.
No, not with COVID, but with the officials in charge of the COVID response. I'll put it that way.
So what was it like? So were you in the middle of a gig when like COVID officially touched down? Like March of 2020, what were you doing?
March of 2020, I was actually isolating. I was masking up and gloving in public. I was in the midst of having a freak out because there was a story that came out that some usher in a Broadway show had tested positive for COVID. And the producers, in retrospect, who were correct, were going to let the shows go on. And I said, you're putting lives at risk. The ushers and the musicians in the pit. And I was totally.
You were the OG COVID Karen,
bro. I was in 100%. And then over time, I was like, wait a minute, something. Oh, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right. I just. It got kind of weird, but I had a couple of gigs that were coming up, one of which would have really, really helped me out in my career, and they got canceled. And I held on hope for a while that things might return to normal. But then once it became clear that even though our numbers were diminishing or decreasing, but the restrictions either remained or they were increasing, I said, something is strange, and it's taken 2 years for them to even realize that perhaps it's a seasonal virus. And, I don't know, virus going virus. But, so a lot of, and I was sort of early on to people like Andrew Cuomo. I was like, we can't do this forever. And, initially I was like, why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you telling people to wear masks and so on and so forth?
Wow.
But then it became about, okay, well, we can't do this forever. And then it was like, wait a minute, why did you sign this executive order, which is now gone from the New York government website, by the way, they scrubbed it. Why'd you sign this executive order telling nursing homes that they cannot exclude patients on the basis of their COVID status? So that was a bit strange. But of course, whenever I mentioned that to somebody, it became a quote unquote right-wing talking point or conspiracy theory.
Wow. It takes so little.
Yeah. But even his own attorney general released a report later on showing that, that his policies led to more deaths and that he was fudging the numbers, which is exactly what they're accusing Ron DeSantis of doing, which is hilarious.
Do they think Ron is subtracting?
They think he's hiding bodies. They think he's hiding bodies somewhere. These people are so ridiculous.
It can't be all that nice Florida vitamin D and happiness and openness. It's like, that's crazy.
Obviously, there's a conspiracy afoot.
Oh yeah. So did you wash a grocery or two in March 2020? Were you washing packages?
Yes. I was wiping down my mail. I was wiping down, like I would get like boxes of cereal and just like, I had little antiseptic wipes and wipe them down. I had my phone, my tablet, I was wiping those down. My keys, I was wiping them down. I had little paper towel in my back pocket I would carry so I didn't have to touch any doorknobs. Did you
have something like a UV light that you would pass over your belongings to?
No, but I should have gotten one of those. That would have been pretty cool if I'd had one of those.
At your height of all of this, were you thinking like, oh, this is something fun I can do, or were you genuinely like scared of getting sick?
Yeah, I mean, I was annoying all my friends and sending them statistics and everything. I had one friend that was like, I know what the numbers are, Clifton, and thank God for her though, because this is what happens when you actually have a diverse set of friends who have differing opinions. So she was sending me articles saying of pretty much of dissenting opinions, and it annoyed me at first, but because I respect her and her intellect, I was like, all right, I'll listen. And that was kind of what kept the doorway open and eventually led to me becoming a full-on right-wing science-denying extremist in the minds of many.
I want to talk about your, I guess, sort of, I don't even know if you would call it a political awakening, because based on a lot of your social media content, you seem politically homeless. Like, you, I think, take shots at the right and the left. Would you think that's a fair statement?
Yeah, although most of my vitriol is probably aimed at the left right now, just because it's not as though I have. I don't feel like I have a comfortable home on the right. I just don't have any major beef with the right. But I see a lot of the major problems that we face right now, particularly in my, at least maybe my former industry, they're just coming from the left right now. And I say all the time, like, look, the left has turned into they're the left-wing version of these sort of puritanical right-wing Christian zealots that we used to make fun of during the Bush years.
Exactly.
But if Dana Carvey were to resurrect his church lady character and swapped out his white wig for a pink one, and instead of like saying Satan, like his punchline was like patriarchy or racist or Nazi, like it will be the same thing. It would still have relevance. So as far as my awakening, it was gradual and then all at once. There was a point around 2007 where I decided that I wasn't going to, I'll give you bullet points, where I decided I wasn't going to allow my race to be the determinant factor in everything that happened in my life, good or bad. I said, if people can't see that I'm a human being outside of just a black man, AKA just my demographics, then that's on them, whether it be a Nazi or some well-to-do, affluent, Marxist, progressive, white leftist. Then a few years after that, I had this awakening. I found a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy by a guy named Robert Glover. And it was the first just piece of literature, I guess you could say, that was unabashedly pro-male. And it's not like the sort of manosphere stuff that you can find today where which that stuff can be really, really nihilistic and I think unhelpful. But it was just about, look, a lot of guys, there's been a lot of societal changes, and a lot of guys who think of themselves as nice guys actually are lying to themselves and everybody else. And it was one of those really eye-opening moments where I said, well, maybe, hold on a second, maybe it's not such a bad thing to be male. So that was another thing, because then once you start internalizing that, that you're not just an evil, toxic male, and that, you don't blame all of your problems on white people, you begin to alienate yourself from the vast majority of your peers who totally are true believers in those kinds of ideas. Then in 2014, this eruption happened on the internet that came to be known as GamerGate. And it was very, very strange, and there's no way that I can really explain it all to your listeners in a short period of time. But essentially, it began as a sex scandal, and it sort of mushroomed out from there, where, long story short, I began to see firsthand how an event can take place on the internet. And then when it bubbled up to the mainstream, the way that the press reported on it was so divergent from what actually was going on. So to see yourself written, because I just happened to be in the right place at the right time and saw it all unfold, because it really was like internet drama. I was like, oh, this is really juicy. Mm-hmm. And but then it was like, oh, GamerGate is this movement by a bunch of angry white males who are privileged and they want to keep women out of gaming and game development. And I'm like, that's literally not what's going on. And then you had minorities, both racial and sexual minorities and women, who were saying, no, I actually see where these people are coming from and I support what they're doing. But they were either ignored or they were dismissed outright, or they were just completely insulted. And, I had all these white leftists, these Twitter leftists coming at me and being like, you don't know what you're getting into yet. It's so insulting, as if
like you're a child.
You,
yeah,
like I don't have the wherewithal to understand who is racist and who is not. Are you kidding me? Get the fuck out of my face with this. So there were so many elements back then that I saw. One of the main elements being how the press just lies. They're either wrong or they're liars. And because around that time, the whole Michael Brown thing was going on with Ferguson, and they were like, hands up, don't shoot. But the Washington Post of all outlets was doing some fine reporting on this. And it was like, dude, based on all the ballistic evidence, there's no way that he had his hands up while he was shooting. It all supports Officer Darren Wilson's story. But yet you saw all these celebrities, all these politicians, all these pundits parroting the same narrative. And then Trump got elected, and that just broke everybody. And but by that point, I'd already sort of learned to keep my mouth shut for the sake of my career. And I didn't vote for him, but I just thought the reaction to him was just completely over the top and ridiculous. So, just over time, all these things began to coalesce at once. And then, once you began to do more research and more reading, I mean, I discovered people like Jordan Peterson, and that helped me go on this intellectual journey, because then you begin to read about history and the, Marxist sort of ideas and ideals, and doing more digging into that. And I was like, I can't really align myself with these people anymore. So there came a point where I said, the Democrat Party is garbage, and they don't align with my values. And the most pressing thing is that if you are a Black person and you are someone who, like I said before, does not blame all of your problems on white people. You see the same problems, but you think there are different ways to solve them. You don't center your life around the hatred of and fear of white people. You don't feel like you're aggrieved in any way. You don't feel like you're put upon or oppressed. Then the Democratic Party and their activists or whatever, they have no use for you whatsoever. They hate your guts. They hate your fucking guts. And I said, I can't be aligned with a party or with any sort of congregation, so to speak, that doesn't want the best thing for me, even though they claim to want those things. I just don't believe them.
This must have been doubly hard because you're in the acting scene, which is very liberal, very leftist. Did you lose any friends along the way? Or you mentioned you felt like you had to keep your mouth shut. Did you feel like you could connect with anybody when you were having these new feelings?
Well, what began to happen is, there are people out there that can see through the nonsense. And you begin to find them here and there. Like one example I can think of specifically. So I was playing Professor Plum in the world premiere of Clue on stage.
You wearing that very shirt?
I wasn't wearing this shirt, but
Okay.
But my costume was actually pretty sick. So there was one day we're rehearsing, and every 10 minutes it was either the director or the lead actor would like kind of stop rehearsal and just like check at their phone and be like, "Did you fucking see what Trump just did or what he said today?" And I'm like, dude, can we just rehearse this comedy? Like Sally Struthers is in it. You want to talk about comedy? Sally Struthers is a genius. She is hilarious. That's just a side note. But we're in this room doing this ridiculous show, and not quite.
Your outfit? No, this is what I'm picturing.
It was a little more pimp than that. I got to say.
Okay.
But at one point we're on a break, and this director, he goes, a lot of women vote Republican because they're afraid of their husbands, and his wife is standing right there and is like, "Yep, mm-hmm." And I said, that's one of the most sexist, disgusting things I've ever heard in my life. I mean, I left the room at the time. I was just fuming. But when I came back and I was visibly sort of like, what the fuck? There was another girl in the room, maybe 23 at the time. It had a really small role, but she was like, "Did you hear that?" And
okay, good.
And we became friends, over the course of that run. Another time, and this is a friend that we're still friends to this day. I was doing a concert at the 92nd Street Y, which is a wonderful venue in the Upper East Side of New York. And there was one of our castmates comes into our dressing room or our green room, and she's like, "I was reading this article today, and this guy wrote something that I never thought about before. It's that the reason that the women or the reason that heels were designed the way that they were, or something like that. It's like the reason that women wore heels was because they couldn't run." And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're talking about a very specific class of women, certainly not women who worked for a living, who are dressing up a certain way, just like common sense stuff that if you have any sort of knowledge of not even like just any sort of knowledge of history and just, socioeconomics, just comes off as ridiculous. But there's this other woman in the cast with me who just goes, well, I don't know. That sounds a little diabolical. And I said, that makes some sense.
Yeah, that's great.
So you find, or another instance, I was doing a reading of this really weird musical. And, I didn't have much to do in it. So, we're sitting at music stands on stage and there's a guy next to me and I have my Kindle open and I happen to have it open to Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. And I sort of panicked because I was like, oh crap, he can see this. And so I tried to kind of get rid of it. And he just leans over. He's like, I'm reading that book too.
Wow.
It's really, really good. And so then like that night we packed a bowl, we smoked up and we were talking about Ben Shapiro and how, all these sort of liberals are sort of like crazy. Yada, yada. So there are people out there, but they're terrified to say anything. And it's what I've said and multiple times is that what happens over time is that you spend so much time lying to yourself. And that's the irony, right? Because what we do as actors for a living is that our job is to live truthfully under fictional circumstances. But you have to, at a certain point, to preserve your career, you're living fictionally under truthful circumstances, aka reality. And what's strange about it, even though it sounds counterintuitive, is if you disconnect with yourself on a certain level and you keep lying to yourself, lying to everybody else, you are building up this habit where you become more disconnected from your true core and what you really are, which is where your artistic power comes from. That's your power center as an artist. And it erodes your soul after a while.
Wow.
And
yeah.
I just got tired of eventually I just got tired of keeping my mouth shut. And once everything sort of went to shit in 2020, I just was like, whatever, I'm just going to start saying, typing out what I think, because I think something is really wrong and it needs to be talked about. And, you can only receive so many private messages from aggrieved progressive white women apologizing for how horrible your life must be because George Floyd died. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
People I worked with, I'm so sorry about, or, theaters that I worked with before.
I'm so sorry for your loss. You're like, I don't know George Floyd.
I don't fucking know George Floyd. Like, what the fuck? I had nothing to do with that nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I've been in Atlanta for a long time, so I drop N-bombs every once in a while.
I'm gonna
but
be
it's
canceled
like,
now. No, it's
yeah, so yeah, they'll clip that.
I hope they do.
But like, it's just it.
So you were getting messages from white women apologizing or sending their condolences, and like, did you respond?
No. I know I should have, and well, one I actually, I'm still friends with, and I tried to appeal to her, and because she's very open-minded, and I love her a lot actually, but she's out in California, and I tried to appeal to her and say, look, I know that they're saying this one slogan that Black Lives Matter, but you have to separate that slogan and that sentiment, which most people agree with, from the political movement, the ideological roots of the political movement, the goals of the organization, which, stories keep coming out now about how, the mismanagement of funds and how it's sort of a fraudulent organization. But also that, if you keep I told a friend point blank, these people don't want equality. What they actually want is revenge. And if you keep on acquiescing to it, nothing will ever be enough. So it's difficult to get through to people and to convince them of that. But of course, this makes me politically white anyway. So I don't get listened to by a lot of my former peers. And in fact, they Uncle Tom, Coon, all that kind of stuff. But it's like, dude, these people don't care about you either. They don't care about Black people. If they did, then why are they talking about defund the police, which has the net effect of more Black people dying? It's things like that where if you have these kinds of divergent opinions, if you introduce any sort of nuance into the conversation over these issues, then you're immediately persona non grata. And, it's just a very, very I mean, I call it a cult now.
It is.
You
It
know?
absolutely is. It's so you bring up so many interesting points, Clifton, and a lot of the things that you were saying is like triggering a lot of like aha moments. I'm like, because I was a feminist, hardcore, right out of
Really?
college, like voted for Obama the first time,
Mm,
second time, what was gonna vote for him, but then I didn't want to be late for yoga, so that took precedence.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, graduated was a straight up feminist, like was in a Students for Social Justice Club,
Wow.
went to like some protest at an army base in college. Like I was in it. I was like drinking the
Wow.
Kool-Aid. All my friends were like very liberal, and it was at the time it was like just cool. It was like, oh, of course, what other way would you want to be? Of course gays are people and should be able to get married. It wasn't like,
Mhm.
and I think if I had graduated college like 10 years later, I would have for sure been like ripe for becoming like this Marxist indoctrination that we see happening in universities now. But it really made me realize, and now it's like I spent all these years like reflecting and kind of getting out of my brainwashing. And it's leftists are so arrogant, like they think they've cornered the market on female respect and female empowerment. And
Mm,
it's like the more like good guys you meet, and that's Jordan Peterson was so influential for me too, because even though I wonder if it speaks a bit more strongly with men, but it's like, oh wow, if men can sort of like step into who they're meant to be by self-responsibility and like right, cleaning their rooms, and just like basically my takeaway from Jordan Peterson is like the more responsibility and ownership, like the better your life will be. And it just made me realize like, oh wow, if men can kind of have the capacity to take on these certain roles, well then now I don't feel like I can drop my feminist training a little bit and put some things down and be like, okay, I don't have to be an island. I don't have to like hate men. It's like it opens up space for you to like begin the idea of having a partner and like,
mhm.
getting closer to the person you're already with, because it just lets down your guard, and it's like, okay, you don't have to do everything. Like I graduated college with this mentality of like, you better be able to like pay for everything yourself. If you want to have a kid, you better be ready to pay for all of it by yourself, because any guy you're going to be with is going to either leave you, cheat on you, screw you over. It's like,
Mm,
if you want to do anything in this world, like just do whatever it takes to be able to do it all completely by yourself.
yeah.
Which and then there's women who have it worse, which is just like, oh, they don't even try, they just get cats, and then it's kind of like they make themselves look so unattractive to the point where like it's almost like children who are abused or like sexually abused, like they end
Mm,
up becoming overweight because it's like an unconscious like protection that they're putting around themselves because they don't want that to happen again. So they're consciously or unconsciously making themselves like less attractive. Like I think that's what's happening with feminists because
mm,
they've been burned or like daddy issues, like all of the above, just mental illness. And it's like it's a way to put up a defense in a sense. And I love the point you brought up about like when you're repressed, it's sort of like it stifles your creativity, and it's just like any movie where you see like the characters like they're gay but they can't come out, and it's like
mhm.
they're angry and everything is horrible, and nothing, it's like you can't move on with your life until you have this huge thing blocking you. And I see a lot of parallels to that with like if you're not acknowledging like this brainwashing and like the progressive leftists and how it's not really like how we've been told, like, well, we're just evolving. We're just, being kind to others. We're just allowing trans people to have rights. It's like, it's not that. It's Marxism. It's like the Trojan horse for communism. It's so much more toxic than that. And I think like anything that is repressed absolutely takes over. And I feel like we're seeing a
Mm,
lot of like a just millions of kind of repressed. I don't know if it's repressed or they're just very much what do they call it, the mass formation psychosis. It's the last 2 years have really like broken a lot of people for sure. And that what the left has done so expertly is they've convinced a lot of people that their side is the smartest, the most
yeah.
cultured, that like it's a value to be the most obedient. They are now their group is safe from consequence. They're emboldened to shame others, threaten people, bully, boss other people around, and they've done this like they have control over like culture and the arts, which like you and I like are both a part of, and we've seen like just through the years, especially like being in New York, and it's like They've done it through academia. Like they control the science, they control universities, like young, spongy kids in their like, late teens and 20s going through college. And then, of course, like I'm preaching to the choir here. Then there's like, of course, media and quote the news. So it's like you put all those together, really being jacked up the last 10, 15 years, you have like the actual like inverse opposite of what was going on, I think, in like the Bush era, where, okay, now this side is they have too much power. And there's so much toxic going on. And what I think what we both experience is like, in order to be a free thinker and step outside of like the leftist progressive sphere, it's like you have to want it really bad. Like you have to be willing to risk your reputation, your social media platforms, your entire like public persona. Basically, if you're, someone like you or I, where you have a platform, you have to be willing to risk like your relationships, your income, probably your job. This is all in the last couple of years. And then a whole nother story with like what you're willing to risk as far as your kids, keeping the mask, not saying anything. It's like they've done a bang up job. They basically tricked so many people. Like they've tricked people out of their own autonomy. Like it's actually smarter to obey than it is to think for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's I try to frame it for people in this manner. You consider the number of people who become pundits or journalists, celebrities, famous athletes, singers, actors, comedians, university professors, Silicon Valley, tech workers or whatever. And you consider that number of people versus everybody else. It's a very, very small number of people. But the thing is that very, very small number of people controls so much of the conversation. I actually call a lot of the Silicon Valley folks, I call them the reality cartel. So you have, Twitter and Facebook and Google and so on. They're not only curating what sort of information that you have access to, they are, and I guess I would add the educational system as well. But they're altering your very perception of what reality is, and people, have been warped by this very small number of people who have this outsized influence. And I try to explain to people that you think about the typical life of, I specify usually like a Black American kid. If he's like in high school or whatever, whatever his teacher is saying, which he probably doesn't have the wherewithal to question. This is a person in a position of authority. So why would I ever say anything? But think about what the teachers are teaching, and then what his favorite athletes, his favorite musicians are talking about, politically speaking. Then whatever's on the news that evening. As you said, the news. I also do the quotation marks around the news, but the news, whatever they're talking about, there's a constant reinforcement of this one particular way of viewing the world. And I think the thing for me that really sort of astonished me once I sort of had my quote unquote awakening was that I didn't even know there was another way to think. I didn't even know there was another way to view the world. And it's so funny now that these people, like you said before, they think they have a monopoly on intellectualism. But I'm looking at people like Douglas Murray. I'm looking at people like Victor Davis Hanson, people like Thomas Sowell, Walter E. Williams. These are brilliant, brilliant people that people on the quote unquote left have no clue about. No clue even exists. So when you see people like Jimmy Kimmel saying, we're liberals because we know things.
It's so corny. It's like they're cartoons.
And also the thing about it as well is that it's so fucking boring. That's the thing about it as well. It's so stale. It's sanitized. It's stayed. It's just one of the most exciting things. Once I discovered Jordan Peterson, I'm gonna get back to him. What you said about him in a moment. And men is, he inspired me to read these Russian authors that I ignored. He inspired me to read the Gulag Archipelago and or The Road to Wigan Pier by George Orwell. So he's really helped me move on this intellectual journey. And then I have people like Thomas Sowell, who's writing about all these different issues, not just economics. But then, the first chapter of his book, Basic Economics, really changed my perspective on just how life works. Or his book, Black Rednecks and White Liberals, a brilliant book that completely changed my view about race relations and the history of racism in the United States. It's not that, I'll say that these people are absolutely right, but it's just that it offers you a different perspective, and it gives, you're living life on an x-axis, but these guys provide a y-axis as well. They provide depth. It's not just, this linear sequence of events. And that just makes life far more interesting, because there's just much more to talk about and much more to think about. And and I'm like, why would you want to? Why? But you exist in these in this congregation, in this cult, which completely despises and is very hostile toward any sort of deviation from their orthodoxy. I mean, I made a Facebook rant like years ago where I mentioned this, and it's funny to see it now bubble up to the mainstream, how people are sort of comparing this modern left-wing or progressive, quote unquote, ideology to a religion. And I said that, there's this orthodoxy that it has all of these internal contradictions that don't even make sense. They're not logical. How can you decry racism, but try to fix it with more racism? How can you decry sexism and try to fix it with more sexism? So on and so forth. And people were just like, what are you talking about? You're such a provocateur, and they can't even engage with these ideas. Meanwhile, like there was one a panel where it was like atheists versus religious people, right? And it was like Richard Dawkins and I think Sam Harris and maybe Lawrence Krauss, I think this his name was, on one side. No. Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens. How could I forget about good old Hitch? How dare I? And on the other side, it was this British conservative named Roger Scruton. And I just discovered Roger Scruton. And I said, I really like this guy. And so rather than what I would have, what my mindset would have been some years before that, where I said, well, obviously Hitchens and Dawkins are right. And this guy, Roger Scruton, is a moron. I said, oh, I like all these guys, especially Hitch. So I want to see what they say. And it was just so cool to have that kind of experience where you're like, oh, you're open to all kinds of things. But going back to Jordan Peterson for a second, I think what you said, and it's so surprising to hear you talk about your story of, having been a hardcore feminist and all of that. It made me think about my last girlfriend when I met her, where, she kind of had a very similar mindset. And the irony is that the more I leaned into my masculinity, the less we fought, the less conflict there was, because the more she was able to relax into her femininity, and she was able to feel sexy, and she was like, I love when you take charge and when you make decisions, and and it wasn't that she was some sort of submissive wilting flower
or an idiot, or
right.
someone who can't pick a restaurant,
You know what I mean? Like she was brilliant. We split the bills, and like whenever she had an issue, we would talk about it. And just, I miss her to this day. She was brilliant. And I don't know if I'll find someone else that, that's at her level. We both wanted to be actors. That's why we're not together anymore, unfortunately.
Oh, I was like, what went wrong? And there
I know. It's just, it's a sad story. But it's like, I think the thing with Peterson and why he appeals to so many men is that there's been this constant, and I had internalized this as well. I mean, I grew up without my father. And a lot of young men especially, have internalized this idea that there is something inherently wrong with them and that they are defective. And someone like Peterson comes along who says, you are about something. You can really make yourself into something. You can slay dragons. You can be the hero of your own story. And that kind of thing, maybe it's a male power fantasy if at its extremes about, saving the world, but his philosophy is like, you can only save the world after you've saved yourself anyway. And this idea of taking on more responsibility and cleaning up your life and becoming as powerful as you can be is really, really appealing to men who they want a purpose, and they don't want people always denigrating them and telling them that they're toxic, telling them what they are is wrong or bad, or it's inferior to whatever women bring to the table. And then what you began to realize is that for all the bluster and all the talk about, girls run the world and women this and women that, at the end of the day, the women that I meet, they want a man, you know what I mean? And they want somebody who can handle his business. And, it's so fascinating to me because I see the same thing, I see this phenomenon in women who are around my age. I'm almost 40. And the women who in their 20s who were so hardcore, like, I don't need a man, and I'm going to go and accomplish all these things. It's like, okay, well, you got all these degrees, all these career achievements, but you're miserable and you're lonely. And it's really delicate to try to talk about this because I do feel a lot of compassion, sincere compassion for a lot of women, but it's I joke about, when I hear women say like, well, I pay my own bills and I have these degrees and I have this successful career, yada, yada, why can't I find a man? And I'm thinking to myself, there's no IQ score or curriculum vitae in the world that's going to make a man's dick hard. That's just what it breaks down to. It's not, you accomplish all these things.
The bodega for this, Clifton.
But you know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's not as though those things aren't important. It's just that
it's crazy. Like like I've watched so many shows, or like I can't think of. I think it's Kevin Samuels or whatever. There's a couple people who they ultimately
not Kevin Samuels. Oh no! Did you bring up Kevin Samuels?
Kevin Samuels, where they're like, and he's extreme, but when a lot of women have the realization of like, oh fuck, I wasted so much time like being a boss and being a CEO and getting myself financially secure that I didn't realize all I had to do was like. I mean, this is going to sound so like, I don't know, sexist, but like, honestly, you can be so happy just by being like getting in shape, being pretty, and like being friendly and nice. And like, you could totally meet a man. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to have a, a good GPA. Like so many things that women think matter, like honestly don't matter when it comes attracting a guy.
Well, they're projecting what they want in a man onto the men. And Chrissy, you cool as fuck. I can't believe you brought up Kevin Samuels.
He's great.
Conversation.
He blew me away. I was like, this guy, he's harsh, but he speaks a lot of truth.
Well, what's funny is that a lot of the women who don't like him, they almost never disagree with what he's saying. They're saying, I don't like his tone. And I'm thinking to myself, you should hear the way that he talks to dudes. He's even more harsh on men, and he's like, clean yourself up, like get your fucking life together. Like, what are you doing, bro? But yeah, I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow. It doesn't denigrate any of your other achievements, but it's like, men, we're we're not really that demanding. And the thing is, a lot of men, and I felt this myself. I mean, one thing that's not really spoken about or realized is that there's this idea that, let's say you're with a male partner and you're supposed to be quote unquote submissive. There's this idea that your life as a man is easy street. And I'm like, no, it's not easy putting the weight of your family and like your job and your career on your shoulders. And a lot of men complain about that. But they'll do it. They'll do it because they love. That's how they show love to their wife or their partner. That's how they show love to their kids. And it's not as though it's like a cakewalk. There's just a lot of stress involved. But there's a lot of men who also take pride in being able to identify themselves as as a leader, as a strong provider. As someone who is handling his business and protecting, what he has to do. So there's a lot of psychology that's at play there that I think gets overlooked by a lot of these activists who try to move us away from what we are. And I love this. I haven't read the paper in full, but I want to. But have you heard of the what is it? The paradox of declining female happiness?
No, but I'm already obsessed with it. And
the thesis is basically that since the 1970s, despite the expansion of women's opportunities and their roles in society beyond, being homemakers and mothers and wives, they've self-reported declining happiness. I read another statistic where 1 in 4 women are on some sort of antidepressant. There was another story, a couple of stories, one out of Canada and one out of the UK, where women aged 18 to 24 right now are out drinking their male counterparts.
Wow.
So there's and then you add on social media's influence on top of that, which people seem to think has a more deleterious effect on young girls.
Yeah, because
So-
when you remove like the pillars of what would be your strength and self-esteem, and like those are gone, or they're made to be like feeble little sticks, and then you go on social media and you compare yourself to all these other hot chicks on Instagram, it just kicks those out, and then you're just like, it's
and as a guy, you look at it and you're like, like I look at, if I see a guy who has a great physique, I say, hey, I want to look like that guy.
hey, that guy's gay. No.
No, not quite. But I think for a lot of men, it's like you see people who are, they have a lot of status, or they appear to have some kind of success or whatever. And so that has an impact as well. So, but the broader point is, are we willing to examine why, despite the fact that women have more freedoms than ever, like you mentioned that, oh, no, you didn't, but I mean, women make up 2/3 of college, of the college student body right now.
But I was thinking that.
Well,
they're more in college. They're and guys are, the smart ones are, learning trades, I guess. And then ultimately, I love hearing stories like the guy who went to college and has like 2 degrees is in heaps and heaps of debt. Meanwhile, his buddy he went to high school with is a plumber and he's crushing it and he has no debt.
And these are the people that quote unquote leftists call idiots and dummies. Meanwhile, it's like, you know what? If you have a plumbing business, you have to have some kind of intelligence to be able to run a successful business. You have to be able to read people. You have to understand money, how it works. You have to learn how to meet people halfway. You have to have some, like you're not an idiot. You know what I mean? But then now, because we have all this technology available, people are listening to podcasts. They're listening to books on tape. There's all these lectures on YouTube. I mean, that's what I was doing. I would smoke a joint and, fire up some Tetris and listen to, Thomas Sowell lectures or speeches or whatever. You know what I mean? So the knowledge gap, it's like the scene out of Good Will Hunting now, where this jerk douchebag from Harvard is like talking about all these classes he's taken. But then, little Will Hunting, aka Matt Damon, is like, you spend $100,000 for this, for what I could get with a 10 cents in the library card,
Wow.
And
yeah.
That's what's happening now. The sort of knowledge gap is decreasing, and people are educating themselves. So this idea that if you went to honestly, a lot of the people that I meet that have gone to Ivy League schools are the dumbest motherfuckers that you could imagine.
Right. And they only got in because they know someone, or their dad is someone, or they had the money. Yeah.
So it's like, you're not as brilliant as you think you are. You're really not. So there's a level, an evening out of the playing field that's happening right now, because we're in this like digital age. So in that way, it's a very exciting time. And I think that's why people like Jordan Peterson and Kevin Samuels are catching on, because we have access now. There's people out there that are saying, wait a minute, this resonates with me. And, and I think there's something to that. And we're seeing now the blue church, as it's been called, is just being completely exposed for the shallow, anti-intellectual, amoral, even increasingly creatively bankrupt cult that it really is.
It's so interesting, like what a lot of things you're saying are, it's like it's making me put ideas together. It's like I feel like smarter for having talked to you. Like, think about like what women want deeply, which is like ultimately like it's what you lack, right? You're looking for what you lack. And of course, not all women. Whatever. There are some women who are naturally like less feminine, and some men who are naturally less masculine. Whatever.
Right.
But like, if most women are looking for like what they are lacking, which is like strength, stability, you're like, okay, you want to find that. And then, okay, so every woman wants strength, stability. The left sells it to you like the only way you can be strong is being on your own, by being an island, like being a boss bitch, staying at home with your cat, like YOLOing, binging, whatever it is, like spending too much money on dumb shit.
If I can jump in real quick, the irony is that they're trying to tell women that strength is found in being some sort of caricature of what they think a man is. That's pretty much what it is.
Yes. And then, whereas I don't know if you want to generalize like the right or more of a conservative mindset, if it's like progressive versus like conservative, right? Like, and then I feel like what seems like the healthier side is like, yes, we want strong women too, but it's not through being an island. It's not through being like that you have to be yourself and you also have to be the man somehow also because of a
Mhm.
trust issue or an anger issue. It's like, no, it's like the way to strength is through partnership. It's through like you're a team. It's like what are your gifts to give to a guy? And
Mm.
what are you looking for to complement you? And it's like and it's like then you move on, you're stronger together, you're in a good place to make a family, start a business, whatever. But it's like you're never gonna get there. You can't start a business or a family, or it's gonna be way fucking harder if you're on your own. If you've
Mhm.
fallen for this like leftist trick, basically. And it
But you
keeps you
know,
back years, I think.
I would agree with that. But you know what's interesting too is I have this theory that we're in the midst of the next sexual revolution, but it's being driven by men. Some might call it a backlash to I don't know, maybe second wave or third wave feminism. But now, for instance, I mentioned the manosphere briefly. Um, Now there is a correspondent movement that's more subterranean because we can't talk about men's issues publicly. And a lot of these guys, they have valid points, I think, about, say, the bias in the family court system, or how men are viewed as disposable, and therefore their needs are also viewed as disposable and not really important. But now, if there would be a lot of men in the quote unquote manosphere who would listen to the things that we're talking about, which really boils down to more traditional gender roles. And now they're saying some of the same things that feminists would say about about the roles that women should play. And so now you have men who are saying, why should I be why should I sacrifice, my life expectancy and my body and my money
Wow.
for a society that hates me? Why is it that I'm only viewed as a workhorse?
Or to be drafted, right? Die for your country
Exactly.
that seems to hate you.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So one of the big conflicts right now is that, and Kevin Samuels has mentioned this as well, is that you know women want to continue to have the freedom to be non-traditional, um, but yet they still expect men to move in a traditional way. So men are still expected to be what we've always been. But what's happening now is that men are saying to themselves, no, they're walking away, and they're eschewing marriage, they're eschewing relationships completely. And the irony is that um, I don't think that a lot of women understand how they are contributing to the continued, um, I don't know, bifurcation
Bad
of
for the
the
team. It's bad
sexes.
for all women. It's bad for you as an individual. It's bad for like women as a group.
Well, and it's also bad for society, I think, in the long run. Leave it to a gay man, but it was Douglas Murray. He's like, men and women, they have to get on. They have to get on.
Hmm.
And at a certain point, I mean, where does the buck stop? So you have men who are saying, "What's the point of starting a family now? It's a huge
Uh,
financial burden, and at any point, the woman can just decide that she doesn't want to be a part of it anymore, and then there goes your life's work, there goes your children." Um,
wow. That's
you
so
know,
sad that like you forget that men, or I don't realize that men think that way, because like my whatever female thinking is you could be left at any moment. You're gonna be screwed. You're gonna be broke. Like, and men have
Everybody's
fears too.
scared.
Yeah.
Everybody's afraid. There's a great film called The Red Pill. I forgot what the woman's name was who made it, but it's very very interesting. I highly suggest watching it, because she started out as Cassie J, I think is what her name is, who made the film, and she started out with a super feminist mindset. She was like, I'm going to go talk to these men's rights activists, so to speak, and figure out what they're about. And the film isn't really about it's less about exploring the ideas that these men, and they're not all men, by the way, who speak about these issues, but it's more about her evolution in thinking. So by the time she reaches the end of the film, she realizes that, look, I had it completely wrong, and the way that we're treating men is bad. Like I just, she's like my female brain just could not empathize with men at all. Another thing, a book, and I haven't read the book yet, but there is a 2020, a long time ago, did a special on this book. A woman named Nora Vincent, who was a lesbian feminist, like hardcore, wrote a book called Self-Made Man. And so Nora Vincent, she's like this 5'10" sort of butch lesbian who she underwent movement training. She went to the gym to build up her upper body. She had a friend who did hair and makeup for her to give her some like stubble. So she lived for about a year and a half.
She stopped asking for directions.
Yeah.
Just peed standing up.
She went the whole 9 yards. But she lived for a year and a half as like a man named Ned, and she went out on dates with women. She joined a bowling league just to talk to men. And what she discovered about male psychology and the way men relate to each other, and on this 2020 special is fascinating because she just said women have no idea. She goes, men are suffering, men are in pain, and women have no idea. They have no idea what it's like to be a man. They have no idea what men are going through. And
wow. Men need support, right? Think about it, whatever, happy trad relationship, like it's like if a man is like busting his ass all day, like working, stressing, right? But like he wants to be able to provide. It's like you're good, just like any person who's working hard. Like you need support. You need somebody to cheerlead for you. You need somebody to be like, do you need a drink? Do you want a snack? Like that doesn't have to be a man-woman thing. That's just like a good friend would see you working hard and try to meet your needs there.
Whenever my last girlfriend, she'd be like, I'd be like working on an audition or something, like not like digging ditches, obviously, but do you want a drink? Want me to make you a drink or something? It's just like, thank you so much. Just thank you. Like if I met a woman like that, I treat her like fucking gold because, you meet so many women now who the idea of doing anything for their male partner is seen as some form of slavery or oppression. And like
you don't respect yourself, which is crazy.
Right. And it's like, dude, like we were saying before, we don't really ask that much of women, but it's like if you have someone in your life that that adds value to your life, doesn't cause too much drama, and just is an asset to you, that's just, it's so rare that when you do meet somebody like that, you're just like, oh my God, like let's be together forever and ever and ever and ever. And what's often glossed over, as we were talking about before, it's just like men have needs too. Now, to be fair, I think part of the reason, part of the issue is that we're expected, again, on one hand, we're told that we need to be more emotional and more open with our feelings, yada yada yada. But then the second we do that,
you're a pussy. Yeah.
Exactly. Pussy just dries right up, right? It's the Sahara. And so, but it's not just women doing that. It's also men. He's like, what are you, man? Come on, fag. What are you doing, bro? Like you crying, yada, yada, yada. So there's pressure from both ends. And so, men don't really open up about their feelings. I think it also extends to how we take care of ourselves. That there's the classic joke about, men, we will not go to see the doctor unless we're like on death's doorstep, And part of it is like, yeah, you got to keep a stiff upper lip. You got to tough it out and push through it. It's I think maybe a very, maybe classically masculine sort of trait. Things happen. People say stuff. It might hurt your feelings, but you just, whatever, man. Water off a duck's back. You keep going. You got aches and pains. You keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You might be injured. You just keep going. And you don't talk about what's bothering you so much unless, you have a really close friend or confidant that you can open up about this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of just really complex dynamics at play, but we flatten things out and we simplify them into like, women good, men bad, or vice versa now, with a lot of the manosphere kind of stuff.
Yeah. And also it's like, and I just know this through just living for years, like the things I used to see as negative aspects of like male behavior, I now like see the positive side of. Like I used to think like the worst thing was like to be sloppy and not pick up and like, oh, like why can't you clean the bathroom? Why, you know what I mean? Like, why are there things? And it's like what I used to think was like a laziness trait in men, or just like, and there's all the memes like of the guy in his apartment with like no furniture, nothing hung up on the walls. Like, do men actually live like this? And it's like,
Yeah.
what I used to see is like maybe laziness or you're dumb or whatever. And it's like, no, it's because I think a lot of them are so busy putting other things first, like other people, other like the goal, right? Like the business idea or whatever it is. It's like, and I think once one day I just woke up and I was like, oh, if I wanted a guy who like picked up all the time and was always vacuuming, like that would be a gay dude or a chick, and I even had like a therapist one time that was like, I don't know, it just didn't help. She was like trying to convince me like, oh, you guys need to share the like the housework and hire a maid. And I don't know. Well, therapy is not always, the answer for everything, or it's like, it should be used like situationally, not like as a long-term thing. I want to get a couple of these super chats. Man, I feel like the conversation is flowing, Clifton. This is from Chris Green. Love Clifton. Thank you for your insight. You're always entertaining.
Appreciate it, Chris.
Matthew Hammond. Has Clifton considered writing his own musical? I think Thomas Sowell needs a musical where you mix in his interviews telling inconvenient truths. I would see that.
You know what? I thought about like like a one-man show, or maybe a film about him and Walter. That actually might be an interesting movie if the relationship between Thomas Sowell and Walter E. Williams, like a biopic or something like that. So I mean, I do have sort of some ideas of, it takes a lot of work that I'm not sure I'm willing to do, but yeah, man, I think these are people that, I mean, there's also other historical figures that nobody knows about, like from the Reconstruction era, for instance, that I think that have really interesting stories to be told that might be able to catch on with people. So yeah, it's just there's definitely possibilities and ideas that are on the table.
Okay, cool. From the Last King of Norway, every porn you'll ever see where there's a dentist involved, you'll see Clifton as the main character. I guess that's a compliment.
I don't know what that means at all.
You have great teeth and you look like you could do porn. From Bobby Bob, mostly peaceful honking. Oh yeah. Shout out to Canada. A lot of these super chats are making Clifton feel uncomfortable. You guys need to do better. No, Matthew Hammond. I hope Clifton talks with Amanda Milius. She has talked about making movies of her father's scripts.
Oh, well, I don't know who Amanda Milius is, but I'll be sure to look her up.
From Tarmanel. Good company on the podcast. Hopefully there'll be no frostbite. Okay, that's an inside joke.
No, full disclosure, I've been rocking out to Pierre Chan's edit.
Oh man, that's a great song.
That shit is fire. That shit is so fire. I was like, what?
It's a beat. It's an actual song.
I see you in the chat. And the girl was, I'm like, yo, that shit is hot.
I see you in the chat. Hit it F right now. Jerk it up to your girl.
Have you heard it at 1.25 speed?
No.
It is really good.
Are you going to play it right now?
I'm going to try and pull it up.
I see the chat. I see you in the chat. Press it up with your girl. Like, boom.
Yeah, and I'm so interested in the creative process. Like, I would love to watch a video where Perry Chan is like listening to that episode and like what makes him think he can turn that into a song. Like, I would love to see his process on that.
That dude is a genius. He is really an evil genius. I mean, his stuff is always funny. He's just, and that's the thing. It's like people they talk about the entertainment industry. It's like, why would I want to watch TV when I can see like a Pierre Chan video? And it's crazy. It's subversive. It's not PC. It's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to watch.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up I think we covered what this tweet inspired in me, but this was something you tweeted at. The problem, Justin, is that a mass hysteria is a myth and could certainly never occur amongst well-educated, science-worshiping, technology-savvy people, particularly if they vote Democrat. The party that only really smart people support. Yeah, this is like everything, all the brainwashing I got in college. Like,
yeah,
if you're not watching CNN, reading the New York Times every day, you're the scum of the earth. You're a bottom feeder.
It's the arrogance that you mentioned earlier. These people are so convinced that they're just brilliant. And I keep referencing Thomas Sowell, but I mean, he's been writing about these people for decades. You can find an audio version of Intellectuals in Society, and there's a chapter I forget what it's called, but he just goes into detail about how these people, it's not some kind of necessarily like a big conspiracy theory or anything. It's just they filter out any information or news that undermines or conflicts with their vision of the world. So you have these writers, these pundits, artists who in the past supported these terrible Hitlerian regimes, and they didn't have access to any other way to think, and but the same kind of arrogance. They also exhibit this verbal virtuosity. They're able to communicate with language very powerfully. They just, it's not new. It's not new at all what we're talking about.
It's like, and once you feel like you've got their number, it's like you see it everywhere. You're like,
Mhm.
oh, this is all bullshit. This is like fucking. It's like bullshit veiled in like, smart people code.
Yeah.
I'm saying it really poorly. Okay, here we go. This is the Frost rap. I'm play it a little bit. It's at 1.25 speed.
I can't wait.
By the beautiful Perry Chan. I hope we hear this at a club one day.
You're about to get frostbitten. Fasten your seatbelts. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. All you geeks and gamers better stop jerking off to me, okay? I smell like burnt hair and Julie, and that is stopping you. I hook you like you're retarded because I think you're all retarded. I see the chat. I see you in the chat. Hit an F right now. Jerking off to your girl. Frostbitten. Now press F if you're not jerking off. Frostbitten. Frostbitten. Now press F if you're not jerking off. I see the chat. I see you in the chat. Hit an F right now. Jerking off to your girl.
Weird.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Not qualified. Go ahead. Make my day. Call me Beaver Barbie.
Bitch, you're that goddamn ugly.
I jerked off to the dislike ratio.
I'm not hot to you.
No.
What in the heck did I just
God.
walk into?
Now, people keep confusing me for a prepubescent Justin Bieber. Someone in the chat called me Eminem mid-transition. Frostbitten.
Girl,
Press
Frost.
F if you're not jerking off. Frostbitten. Why like tights? Frostbitten. Now press F if you're not jerking off. I see the chat. I see you in the chat. Hit an F right now. Jerking off to your girl. I'm standing up for all the women at G4. Emily, Abby, Megyn, Joe, Jake, Zipper, Pockets, Scissors,
Paperclip.
and filing cabinet. X-ray girl. She is a beautiful young Oriental. X-ray girl. Ask them the price of cock. X-ray girl. Not access for you to stroke your chopstick to.
It is better. It's better faster.
You don't like it? Go somewhere else. Peace.
Oh my God.
That is so crazy.
I can't believe I'm like sitting here making you watch this. Here, watch. It's me. Now watch this other thing I did.
No, I enjoyed every second of it. It's hilarious, and it's like what kind of, like, what even makes you think of even creating that in the first place? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, who in the comedy world is even on that level? You know what I mean?
A comedian would not. It would not occur to a comedian, most comedians, to like take an impression and turn it into like I don't know, a rap, a song. And he had to figure out like what words to include, which to leave out. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's math involved, not just because he's Asian, but you have to measure out like syllables. Yeah, I was gonna talk to you about this other Instagram thing you posted, but I think we probably already covered it. Something tells me I'll never get an apology from all the former colleagues who demanded my exclusion from society and openly wished for my death.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. Well, that refers to the needle mandates, or this medical product, which we're charitably referring to as a vaccine.
I like needle product. That's great.
The needle product. It's just it's astounding to me. Like, people say, well, what if you just I did Tom Woods' show, and he's like, well, what if you just, is there ever a time where you say you only live life once? Why not just go with it and da 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 da. But first of all, it's like, well, I'm not going to be bullied or coerced into doing something that I don't want to do. But also, actors are some of the most health conscious people on the planet, and and this idea that our unions and all these different producers, do you really think these producers have your health in mind? Like, get out of here. And But the overarching point underneath that tweet is that even if things were to go back to normal tomorrow, I've seen so much ugliness and so much vitriol from people that I got into it with one actor whom I worked with before, who's done really well for himself. He's established, and he was tweeting about how life should be made more difficult for the unvaccinated. This was like months and months ago, and
yeah.
I said, one of the biggest demographics of people who are not vaccinated are Black Americans. Is that the kind of world that you want to live in? And he deleted that tweet, but then he was like, people like me who want to actually end the pandemic and and he was like, read the data. And I'm like, I am reading the data, you stupid asshole.
How
If you were
small-minded.
reading the data, you would understand like the age stratification, you would understand comorbidities, you would understand all this shit, but you're not reading it. You're just watching the news and just swallowing whatever it says. And because you don't have a fucking brain in your head, you're parroting it. And that's what everyone does in this fucking industry. And then there's the people that agree with me and they know it's bullshit, but they won't say a fucking thing about it. They piss me off the most.
Yeah.
So I mean, careers, trajectories are being ruined right now. And the industry right now in Broadway, off Broadway especially, is struggling. Shows are closing. They're canceling shows. It's just, but then they tweet about it and it's like, oh, if only more people wore masks, if only more people took it seriously at the beginning, if only more people got vaccinated. They just. And my perspective is that, these people are no longer fit for purpose in terms of maintaining the health and strength of our industry, which is so central to, people barked at me when I said that, Broadway performers or performing artists or artists in general are essential workers in New York City because the arts are such a central part of, New York's identity, and they generate so much heat for the economy. So it's not just the people you see on stage who are annoying you with their pretentious nonsense. It's, the ushers who are like retirees who want, picking up an extra job, or the young kids working who are also working as ushers, or they work concessions, or they're snack vendors or whatever, who are just trying to like get a foot in the door and make ends meet. It's the servers and bartenders who are working before and after shows. It's the people who run little bodegas and souvenir shops. It's security guards, it's mechanics, it's custodians who keep these old buildings running and
like
safe.
the overpriced trimming store that sells buttons and ribbons and shit for the people who make costumes for these shows. And
it's all there's an entire ecosystem that they completely ignore. And again, if you studied economics and you understand what an economy is and how it's all interrelated, you wouldn't be sitting there spouting this bullshit about shutting down the whole time. And how insulting is it that these liquor stores could stay open, but Broadway is shut down? McDonald's can stay open, but Broadway is shut down. Get the fuck out of my face with this shit, But I'm the person who, doesn't deserve to work because I'm actually thinking about the future of the industry. It's so ridiculous.
The arts in New York City and finance are the two reasons that people leave wherever they're from that's more comfortable to live in like a shitty small apartment with a 65-year-old woman from Craigslist. It's like you're here not to be in your apartment, but to be out pursuing your dreams, or like taking in culture or whatever, going to museums, like taking in New York City. And like once all of that was gone, that's why so many people left the city, as you know.
Yeah. There's no reason to be there.
And how many people just went back to their like local theater and never came back?
I mean, there's so many people that have just I don't know how many people now have left the industry. I was talking to an older mentor of mine who, he's a fight director, but he's got friends with other directors and he's friends with other directors and whatnot. And he was just saying like, yeah, I have a lot of friends who are successful, they're established, and they say, I'm not even really pursuing work that much anymore. A lot of friends who are, they're subletting their place in New York for now, but they're pretty much they're gone. There are actors who are leaving shows over this stuff. I have a friend who's working at a regional theater right now, not in New York, but our unions are really gung ho about these safety protocols, which just make the theater going and theater making experience miserable for everybody. And the COVIDianism that she's describing is just off the charts. And people wearing masks, at rehearsal, they're performing scenes while wearing masks, talking about how disorienting it is to perform for an audience full of masked drones. It's a violation of the connection between the performer and the audience. Like, you can't read your audience if you can't see their faces.
It's a circuit. It's not one way. Same thing with comedy.
So you get it. And, and so I'm saying to myself, these people, I mean, our union literally sent, Actors Equity Association sent out an email that said, the idea of the show must go on is harmful and unjust. And I'm like, dude, we used to take pride in ourselves as like New York actors about how strong we are, because it's a hard life. New York City is a hard place to live unless you're rich. And doing theater, you do it for the love because it's not a lot of money in it. And so this idea that you're just going to kind of shrink back and let these buffoons like Bill de Blasio, the stupid fucking mayor, the dumbest mayor ever, who's been replaced by someone who might even be dumber than him.
Eric Adams.
Eric Adams.
High hopes.
You know what I mean? Like,
we had regular hopes. We had just
just
the bar
just
was so low that all you had to do was step over it.
Just not be, as Bill Maher once said about Democrats. Just all you had to do was not be crazy. Just not be crazy, and you can't even do that. Or Andrew Cuomo telling you that you're not essential. Like, are you kidding me? You're like, your performers in New York. You know what I mean? Yeah, eat a plant-based centered life. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Listen to this and tell me there's not a suspicious ulterior motive going on, because it's like, yeah, he's a vegetarian, I get it, but listen to the way Eric Adams talks about getting everybody in New York to eat more vegetarian or whatever.
You brought up your eating habits. I just want to clarify something. How often do you eat fish, and do you eat any other animal proteins?
I eat a plant-based centered life. Some people want to call me vegan. Vegans eat Oreos and they drink Coca-Cola. I don't. I eat a plant-based centered life. And those who are the food police for me, they can food police all the time. I eat a plant-based centered life.
So you eat fish?
I eat a plant-based centered.
Meanwhile, crime is still the number one issue in New York
Why
City.
are we even talking about this? Why are we even talking about this?
Right. It's like, this is not an ask me anything. It's like they want to hear you they want to hear you address the issues that are going on in the city, that cleaning up de Blasio's mess, basically. And he's like going on about plants. But it gets worse.
Life. And I'm not going down that. Hold on. Please don't do that yelling out stuff with me. I don't do it to you. Don't do it to me. I did a plant-based centered life. And I'm not going down this rabbit hole of what do you eat? If you eat cake and it has eggs in it, that you analyze it. I'm not doing that. The more plant-based you eat, the better and healthier you are.
Doctor nodding.
That is my question to those who are following me around in restaurants, wondering what I'm ordering. Listen, I'm not doing that. That's noise to me. I got to get New Yorkers to eat a plant-based centered life.
I got to get New Yorkers to eat. Gotta get them sounds different than I want everyone to be healthy and strong and the best they can be. I gotta get New Yorkers to eat a plant-based. What is that coming from?
Mean? And remember Mayor Bloomberg was like, we're going to tax. No, he eliminated like supersize or whatever.
Soda, yeah.
Right. So these people really think that they can control what you eat.
I just feel like I hear Eric Adams saying this. We got to get New Yorkers to eat plant-based, and I immediately start thinking of like the bug, the eating bug thing, like the World Economic Forum goals. Like, I'm just like, oh man, it makes me want to eat meat even more. Like, the more people try to get me off of meat, the more I'm like, nah, let's do carnivore next week, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they don't get it. The more you try to force people, and I think especially after the past 2 years, I think that there's reason to be paranoid that these government officials will perhaps overstep their bounds and try to impose regulations on people that they really have no business doing. And but my main question is, and you said this, crime, the cratering economy, like, why the hell are we talking about Eric Adams' dietary choices? If it works for him, I'm happy for him, and honestly, as a Black man, to see someone of his prominence in that position saying like, yeah, I really put an effort in to, leading a healthy lifestyle. That's important. And, when you're talking about a demographic that, that has high rates of obesity, shorter life expectancy, all kinds of things. So, even just that, I mean, that's cool. it's not my thing personally, but encouraging people to eat more healthily, which also, by the way, would help protect people against the COVID, is a good thing. But saying like, I need to get more New York. I mean, I don't know what he means. I'm not going to read too much into it, but
I'm gonna read into it now. And I just think like it's easier to give people baby steps. Like say, okay, like less fast food is probably better. Less fried food is probably better. More water is probably better for you. And then like keep it loose, I just think, I don't know. I don't like the way he said that. I'm gonna look into it. Last King of Norway. Clifton, when are you going on Friday Night Tights or Geeks and Gamers again?
We're trying to work that out with Friday Night Tights. I just started a new job. I gotta get on top of that, but hopefully maybe next month or so we'll be able to work that out. But I love those guys. They're hilarious.
Awesome. Last King of Norway. Why would anyone question the forced injections? I feel like if we talk about that, we're gonna get a strike. No, I mean
they're safe and effective. They've had extensive research and clinical trials done on them.
What could go wrong? Tori, the reason we didn't take it seriously in the beginning is because we were told by the media that it wasn't. Yet now we are criticized. Thanks, media.
Yes, that's also forgotten, right? That the same press apparatus that is going 4-alarm fire at the same time. I mean, I still have that. Someone made a collage of all these headlines from all these news outlets that were saying that it's just the flu bra, essentially. And the irony is that I think shortly after that, or around that time, on Twitter, hashtag Fox lied, people died was trending. And the irony is that on January 28th, and I know this because I looked into it after someone made the claim. January 28th, right after the State of the Union address that Trump gave, Tucker Carlson talked about, like briefly mentioned, that something's going on in China. There's a virus. There appears to be some kind of outbreak. The next night, Greg Gutfeld also covered the outbreak happening in China. So, ironically, it was the Fox News cohort. It was Fox News viewers who were more aware and on top of the idea that this virus was coming. But if you were watching the anywhere else in the news, so to speak, you had no idea what was going on. Then all of a sudden it was like, panic. I mean, Bill de Blasio, in mid-March talking about, go to the movies. I recommend this newest film with from, it's just like, dude.
Pelosi's like, go to Chinatown, lick an Asian, go nuts. Yeah, let him cough in your mouth.
Exactly.
Nothing to worry about. Damn. Clifton, you're the best. I'm obsessed with you. We're gonna have to do this again sometime. Let people know where they can find you and follow you and anything that's coming up.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, my mediocre Twitter personality. My handle is Clifton A Duncan. My YouTube channel is Clifton Duncan Entertainment. I look forward to putting more entertainment-based content on there. Right now, it's just mainly my podcast and a few Shakespeare videos. I have a Substack called Musings from the Apocalypse. I have an Instagram called what is it? I barely even use it. Clifton Duncan Online. So, as I am kicked out of the industry, I have to be bigger than the industry. So keep checking back. I look forward to stepping more into the role of content creator / influencer, and doing some cool things. So that's what's going on. Next Sunday after next, I got a new podcast dropping with someone I'm very, very excited to talk to. And stuff keeps rolling, man. It's really crazy. My life makes no sense, but I keep meeting wonderful people like yourself, Chrissie.
My God, same. Literally same. This was so great. Thank you, chat, for all your comments and questions. Until next time. Bye.